I see my name in shining lights. Yeah, a different city every night. Oh, I swear the world better prepare for when I'm a billionaire.
It's time to get down to business on the weekend's #1 business program. Known as the King of Networking, your host Shalom Klein has worked with thousands of entrepreneurs and created countless jobs. So, to success. Let's get down to business.
And indeed, we are all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. In business, we talk all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. So let's jump right into it. You could always go to my website, shalomklein.com. While you are there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. I'm so excited for this conversation. A local Chicagoan and Nicole DeJoris joins me. And Nicole, I'm so excited to talk about your business, talk about packaging, which is something that's certainly very timely as everybody's getting their Christmas packages and gifts and everything. But a lot of people don't think sort of behind the box, if you will. But Nicole, welcome to the program. I love to get to know the person behind the microphone. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, thanks, Shalom, for having me on your show. I really appreciate the opportunity. And my name is Nicole DeJoris. I'm the owner of Pinnacle Packaging. We're located in Lombard, Illinois. The company's been around for over 20 years. My brother founded the company, and when he passed away approximately 2.5 years ago, I couldn't imagine the organization being dissolved, so I took over ownership. And we were located in Bucktown for a long, long time, around 15 years, but I did move the corporate office to Lombard in the past, right before COVID. So, which makes more sense. I live out in the western suburbs, and my brother lived in the city. So logistically, it makes more sense. Our main business is packaging, meaning we sell corrugated boxes, stretch wrap, tape, and other ancillary items related to shipping products. It is really important right now. This is high holiday season. In fact, with packaging, if you don't know what your packaging needs are in July, you're going to have a hard time getting what you need as we move into fourth quarter.
No question about it. Again, I'm chatting with Nicole DeJoris from Pinnacle Packaging, and certainly something very, very timely. And again, a lot of people are just excited to receive those packages at their doorstep, but often don't know much about the materials. And Nicole, I would be remiss if I didn't talk to you about supply chain disruptions, because that's certainly something that's very, very much, you can't open up a newspaper or go online without seeing something about it. So what's happening in your field concerning the supply chain disruptions?
Oh, absolutely. You are right on target with that. Supply chain definitely affects the packaging industry. We saw that immediately back in the early days of COVID because, consumer buying habits changed. I mean, we couldn't go out to the stores, we couldn't shop, we couldn't be in public, and therefore had to rely on our household goods and immediate needs being delivered via some type of packaging and delivery service. So what we've seen is an increase in demand like we've never seen in the industry. And on the flip side of that, with the shortage of labor, due to illness and all the changes that have been happening in the economy since COVID hit, there aren't enough people, for one, to produce what's needed to create the packaging. And that covers paper, corrugated boxes, paper, and plastics, and also adhesives. So if you think about the three basic items in packaging, that would be boxes, plastics for bags. Your items when you order from Amazon often come in a plastic poly bag is what we call it, stretch wrap, and tape. Tape is a huge thing. So, these are things we often don't think of when we're ordering online from our favorite retailer, is that, packaging is really, on the back office type of product. We don't think like, oh gosh, well, packaging is first and foremost on our mind. No, our sweater that we're purchasing is first and foremost on our mind, or that piece of furniture we're buying. But that piece of furniture or that sweater we're ordering has to be delivered in something, or it gets ruined. It has to be protected. So that's where packaging comes in. We've certainly seen disruptions, have seen disruptions in that supply chain, where, especially in the holiday season, the raw materials to make these items are on allocation. So you may have heard that in the news. Items are being put on allocation. Raw materials are being put on allocation. What that means is there's only so much of the supplies and raw materials to make packaging available, and it can't keep up with the demand.
It can't keep up with the demand. And again, as you said, these are things that many folks don't think about day to day until they absolutely need it. And I know that your team at Pinnacle is certainly involved in ensuring that you know exactly what the right materials that are required for that sweater or for that TV or whatever the case may be. So I'm not expecting our listeners to be an expert at the end of our conversation with Nicole DeJoris from Pinnacle Packaging, but I'm hoping that we can demystify some of the packaging sort of behind the scenes sort of things that happen over here. So real briefly, what kind of tips can you give your clients or some of our listeners about using different packaging materials? What should somebody know maybe going into this holiday season?
Well, sure. One big tip is that it's okay to move away from using plastics to protect the items that are being shipped. What we're seeing, and you and your listeners may have noticed this, anything that they're buying from the big retailers or their favorite retailers are coming mostly packaged in paper types of protective materials. Boxes have always been around. We're still going to see that. But what a lot of the retailers are moving away from is relying on plastic so much. One, there's an environmental factor for that. A lot of companies are becoming more aware of how plastics affect the ecosystem. And two, they're harder to get. Plastics, the raw materials for plastics comes from the petroleum industry. And, the petroleum industry took a big hit, not only with COVID, but also, if you remember the storms blowing through Texas earlier this year. And that sort of shut down the industry. Well, if you think of industries like that, it takes a long time to get back online and get back running to the same levels that it was previously. So there is a big trend that we're seeing in that companies are moving away from relying on plastic so much and moving over to paper materials. Paper materials can work just as well to protect items being shipped from the weather. So plastics, I think, have a better reputation for protecting items from weather related issues in shipping, but paper is working just as well. You just have to find the right materials and speak with your packaging expert on what would work best.
Love it. And again, I'm chatting with Nicole DeJoris, the president of Pinnacle Packaging in Lombard, Illinois. Nicole, really enjoying our conversation. I know that you served as the company's corporate accountant for several years. And took over ownership from your beloved late brother, Chris, who passed away in 2019. And certainly you've been overseeing and spearheading the growth, the operations. And I know that you are super involved in the community, and perhaps we'll have to leave that for another conversation, but certainly business that's all about community is certainly very important. I want to spend the last minute that we have before, of course, getting our listeners in touch with, as you said, the packaging experts at Pinnacle, talking about sustainability. And you sort of just touched on it when talking about getting rid of the plastics and moving into some other options. Can you just briefly explain why you're so interested in, so passionate about providing sustainable options for your clients' packaging needs? And again, what kinds of choices are out there? And then we'll wrap that up with getting people in touch with you.
Sure. This is a great opportunity to discuss the whole life cycle of paper and boxes. First of all, I want to say recycle your boxes and paper material. It's very important to do that because the paper industries and the box industries use those recycled materials to make new boxes. The life cycle of a box is about 7 times. The paper that is used in the pulp or the wood pulp used to make a box can be used to make a box about 7 times. until it has to, be recycled and put into a landfill forever and ever. So very important that you just don't throw those boxes out in the garbage. It is used in production of new boxes. How that helps the environment? Well, in a lot of ways, we're not cutting down new trees. We're not using a lot of resources to manufacture new items. So remember, recycle your paper materials.
That's great advice, and that's perhaps one of the most important things that you can do during this holiday season. Nicole, I've learned a lot from you, and I can't wait for our next conversation, but how can we get in touch with you and your team?
Sure. You can reach out to me by going to my website. That's pinnaclepackaging.net or 773-235-6060.
Pinnaclepackaging.net. I've learned so much about packaging, and if you remember one thing, it's about recycle. And hopefully you've learned a little something about those packages that are arriving at your doorstep. And to all of our listeners, obviously, we hope you had a great Thanksgiving and wish you a very, very wonderful holiday season. But thanks, Nicole DeJoris, for joining us. We will squeeze in a very quick break here and get down to business. When we return, more small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Don't touch that dial.